How do you do? I'm Dusteroo. It's finally time we sat down and talked about it, so there's no more delaying. I knew this day would eventually have to come. The day I had to play Skull Merchant to get B-roll footage.
Oh, no.
No. Don't cry for me. These are the sacrifices I'm willing to make for all of you. No more jokes, no more memes. Let's talk honestly. I hate Skull Merchant. Not a shocking statement, but my stance nonetheless. There's a lot of reasons we could talk about why I don't like her addition to the game. From her medium budget henchman attire, to her badly developed lore where she became a millionaire at 18 by learning economics at the library. But let's stick to the topic at hand. Her power, in my eyes, is probably the worst idea behavior has ever had, and they've had a lot of them in 7 years. The ability to have constant patrol on 3 gens the way she does has dramatically reduced the enjoyment of this game for me. I'm not generally a survive with friends player, so group communication is rarely a tool I have at my disposal. Something that is very key to actually beating a Skull Merchant who comes into the match determined to 3-gen, or has a build entirely about gen regression or protection. And some of you may say, what about survive with friends? They do have communication, and they can punish the Skull Merchant playing that way. Not really, right? I don't think a character in this game has even close to the ability that the Skull Merchant does in having stalled out matches. I don't think any other character can hold a competitive team for 50 minutes.
10. Main.
I'm leaving.
Even if they don't win, just the ability alone to hold a game hostage for that long against a team making full callouts, competitive callouts, shows how much of a fundamental failure this design has been for the overall health of the game. Sure, my experiences usually aren't 50-minute matches, but I have done 20 and 30-minute matches, and those aren't out of the ordinary. The matches against Skull Merchant that do end shorter usually involve that handy-dandy button right there. Listen, I get it if you enjoy the Skull Merchant's abilities, and on the service level, I would have originally thought that this power could be an interesting change of pace and an actual unique try at a new kind of killer. I would rather have behavior making big shots like Skull Merchant than giving us just another hits over a loop character.
How are you?
But, and it comes with a big but, only if they do the responsible thing for the game and not drag their feet as long as possible hoping people just stop talking about it so much, and actually make some impactful adjustments not too long after it's become the consensus that this character is a problem and genuinely harming people's interest in the game. Skull Merchant was released on March 7th, 2023. At the time of writing, that means it's been around 6 months since her release, and still no substantial material changes to make this killer less of an overall problem. Half a year is not too long in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to Dead by Daylight. I get the feeling we're going to be pushing a year or so before we even hear about a date of a potential rework. See the recent Q&A for the Twins rework will be soon trademark. Leaving such a problem child in their game to ruin the experiences of players for a year plus is a perfect example of how player dissatisfaction does not matter as long as they think they can get away with it. You also want to know the worst part about Skull Merchant? Well, not the worst part. Worst part's kind of a stretch. A sad reality. She's not even that strong. She only excels at wasting time and making solo queue teams regret buying the game on sale. Oh, you bought this game because your favorite horror character? Skull Merchant! She is bad to go against and not even that strong to use. Sure, you can play Chase Merchant, but if you actually want to win against some of the stronger players in this game, then you're stuck with the usual slowdown perks, making matches insufferable. This character was just a miss, and she needs big changes. The rework I came up with is not going to be some fun new design where she gets some silly cool new power. Making drones not be annoying in some aspects is a very difficult thing to do. I know a few of you think you probably have the answer on how to make drones fun, so please, leave your rework idea below and let everybody decide if your update somehow can salvage this concept. I couldn't make it a fun power, but I could make it a less problematic one, or what I think would be a less problematic one. A power where I wouldn't feel the immediate urge to DC against it. So, I resorted to try and remove the worst aspects of her power. The aspects that agitate that deep rage of 2018 Dusteroo, who's struggling to smash out of his shackles and scream out in pain every time I come across this sound. I don't want to gut her. I do want to make her playable to those looking for something a little bit off the beaten path, compared to the other killer powers we usually get. But I'm going to focus her power down a different avenue besides 3-genning. So here we go with the Herculean task of reworking the Skull Merchant in the realm of reality for actual change.
I am dead inside.
We start off with her drones. The Skull Merchant starts the trial with 4 drones. They can be placed and recalled just as they can be now. Drones can be hacked immediately. Drones start in scouting mode, but once they see a survivor, they stay in active mode until they are removed from the trial or go offline. Scouting mode, for those who don't know, is those 2 yellow beams that you can duck under as survivor. Drones now slowly drift around the map at around 1 meter a second. If they spot a survivor, they will follow said survivor as long as they are in range of the active drone, and for 5 seconds after spotting a survivor, after which they'll just float around again. The active drone radius cannot reach above or below. Example, the drone's active radius does not detect both floors on maps like the game. So it is regulated to a singular floor, whether it be above or below. The Skull Merchant receives undetectable for 6 seconds instead of 2 after leaving the active drone's radius. While in an active drone's detection range, survivors are blind and hindered for 3%. If a locked-on survivor comes in contact with a drone in active mode, the drone applies a claw trap to the survivor and goes offline for 20 seconds, after which it'll come back online and be in scouting mode, locked on. Survivors no longer become exposed when they become locked on. Survivors who become locked on have their location shown on Killer Instinct, and anytime they come within a drone's active radius for 10 seconds. While in chase with a locked on survivor, Skull Merchant receives a 5% haste effect, but only while in active chase with a locked on survivor. Both locked on and its buildup cannot be removed unless put into the dying state. Locked on cannot be refreshed by standing in a drone's active range, but will pause the timer. Claw traps. Claw traps last 60 seconds. Claw traps give the Skull Merchant a 2% haste effect for every active claw trap. While wearing a claw trap, survivors can be tracked on the Skull Merchant's radar. If hit while wearing a claw trap, survivors automatically have locked on applied, and the claw trap will be removed. It is now time for the add-on part of the broadcast. We have Ultrasonic Trap Speaker. The Skull Merchant instantly becomes undetectable the moment she comes in contact with an active drone. High Power Floodlight. Survivors are blind while wearing a claw trap. High Current Upgrade. It takes survivors 1 more input to hack a drone. Adi Valente Issue 1. Locked on survivors have their skill check size reduced by 25%. Stereo Remote Mic. Locked on survivors' footsteps are 100% louder. Shotgun Speakers. When a survivor triggers scouting mode, they will scream out revealing their location. Supercharge. Survivors who become injured while wearing a claw trap are inflicted with deep wounds. Low Power Model. Drone's scouting mode range is increased by 15%. Adaptive Lighting. Increase the length of undetectable gained while inside an active radius by 2 seconds. Vital Targeting Processor. Locked on lasts 10% longer on survivors, now 70 seconds. Powdered Glass. This remains unchanged. Loose Screw. While in the area of effect of an active drone, survivors suffer from the exhausted status effect for 6 seconds after. Infrared Upgrade. After having a claw trap removed, the survivor's aura is revealed for 6 seconds. Brown Noise Generator. Unchanged. Randomized Strobe. The Skull Merchant gains 10 seconds of undetectable from entering a drone's radius. The Skull Merchant can no longer receive a 5% haste effect for chasing locked-on survivors. Geographical readout. This remains unchanged. Prototype rotor. Survivors who activate a drone have their scratch marks labeled in blue and last twice as long in the trial for 30 seconds. Advanced movement prediction. Survivors who vault a pallet with a claw trap break the pallet and the claw trap's battery is reduced by 20 seconds. Expired batteries. This remains unchanged. Iridescent unpublished manuscript. When the Skull Merchant enters the drone's active radius, her terror radius is tied to that drone for as long as she is undetectable. And that is what I came up with for Skull Merchant having a realistic rework. If I were to scrap her power completely, and we start from scratch, I think we could make a pretty cool futuristic human hunter. But alas, we have drones. I would rather throw out some suggestions they may actually listen to and incorporate into the hopefully soon trademark rework for the Skull Merchant. So, what do you think? Is this a better Skull Merchant to play as or against? At least it would help stop 3 gens a little bit and hopefully get her more focused on actually chasing. If you think this power is just bad or not even tolerable, please take a couple minutes and think about what you would do to make a Skull Merchant not so problematic. Cause some of you actually do drop some really good ideas down below, and some of you really don't. Either way, I would like to hear it. Either we get a good idea or I get a good laugh, and I'm all for that. And one last addition regarding the Rework series. While I'm not done with the Rework series, the initial pool of killers I wanted to rework when I started this series, I have finished with the Skull Merchant. Of course, I have some others that I have ideas for, but overall, I want to leave a little bit more time to simmer on these powers. Time to rewrite, rethink, and ultimately not feel constrained to having one every week. Basically what I mean is, don't expect a rework to happen every week, maybe even every other week. I will keep working on them as I still have 3 or 4 killers I have ideas for, but I don't want to feel pigeonholed into forcing something out at the end of the week. So, more reworks are coming, but don't expect them every week, is basically all I really wanted to say. So, thank you all for watching. I'm Dusteroo, and I will see you all real soon. Bye-bye!